Some nights, I still feel it, the weight of his shoulder grazing mine, the faint scent of soap and static from the old couch, and that soft, electrified silence that seemed to say asterisk don't move, not yet star. We used to sit like that for hours. The TV would flicker in front of us, some late-night football match neither of us really cared about, and the house around us would fall into that hushed kind of sleep that only happens past midnight. It was like the world forgot about us, like we had slipped into a little pocket of time that didn't belong to anyone else. It was in that quiet that he'd sometimes lean just a little too close. Or I'd laugh a little too softly, watching him out of the corner of my eye. We never said anything about it, never named it, but it hung in the air between us, that question we were both too scared to ask. Did he feel it too? Maybe it was nothing, or maybe it was everything. A glance that held too long, a silence that filled with everything unsaid. And one night, when the clock had long since passed midnight and the rain tapped quietly against the windows, his knee pressed against mine, and stayed there. He didn't move. And neither did I that I was 16 when I started slipping over to Lucas's place on Friday nights, though I couldn't have told you why then. Not in any way that made sense. It wasn't about the football, not really. I wasn't even a fan. But his house had this pull to it. Warm light through the curtains, the soft hum of family that argued loud and laughed louder, a kind of life that spilled over itself in the best, most chaotic way. It felt like standing on the edge of something whole. Lucas lived just across the cul-de-sac, 3 houses down from mine. Our town was the kind of place you only left when the road took you to college or trouble. Mostly, people just stayed. It smelled like grass clippings in the summer and wet pavement in the fall. On Sundays, you could hear the same church bell ring through the air, whether you believed in anything or not. My house was quieter. My parents spoke in K-ful tones. Like every conversation was performance they were afraid to mess up. We weren't cold, exactly, but everything felt edited. Meal times were scripted, our silences clean. There was no shouting, no messy affection. I think that what first drew me to Lucas's living room, the permission to just asterisk be star. He and I had known each other since grade school. Not best friends, but familiar, like neighbors who share the same sun through their window panes. We started hanging out more in sophomore year. Group projects, walks home, shared jokes that drifted into longer talks. I can't remember who suggested watching matches together, only that one weekend turned into every weekend. Lucas had this ease about him, like he belonged wherever he stood. He laughed with his whole face, talked with his hands, had a smudge of paint or grass or something on his jeans more often than not. He wasn't conventionally handsome, not in a glossy way, but there was something magnetic in his honesty, something that made you want to tell him things. Like how I felt like a stranger in my own house. Like how I couldn't picture a future that looked anything like the ones everyone else seemed to be barreling toward. I never actually said those things aloud, but I think he heard them anyway. His house was always louder than mine. His mom worked 2 jobs and still managed to be everywhere at once, checking homework, burning toast, yelling at his younger brothers from the laundry room with a voice that somehow carried both love and exasperation. His dad had left years ago, but no one ever talked about it. Lucas didn't either. I only saw the absence in the way his smile faltered during movies with happy dads in them, or the way he clutched his phone too tightly when his mom worked late. Most nights we watched matches on the living room couch. Sometimes his brothers would fall asleep curled up in chairs or sprawled out on the floor, and Lucas would toss a blanket over them like it was the most natural thing in the world. Eventually it would be just us. The TV would dim, and he'd stretch out beside me, yawning with that careless teenage comfort that made my chest twist up tight. I always stayed too late. I'd say I was leaving and then sit back down again. He never rushed me. I think we both liked pretending there was no such thing as time after midnight. There was never anything obvious, no big confessions, no flirting, nothing I could hold up as evidence. But he'd bump his shoulder against mine when he laughed, or reach past me for the remote and leave his hand there a beat too long. I'd catch him watching me sometimes, mouth open like he was about to say something. But he never did. And I didn't ask. I told myself it was nothing. Just how some friends were. Just a closeness I wasn't used to. I tried to ignore how my breath hitched every time he brushed against me, how I'd lie awake at night thinking about the slope of his neck, the hollow just beneath his collarbone, the way he said my name when he was teasing me, like he knew it meant more to me than it should. The truth is, I was terrified. Not of him. Never of him. But of what it would mean if I said it out loud. If I asked a question I'd been holding in my chest like a secret too sharp to unfold. Did he feel it too? Some nights I thought I knew the answer. Others, I told myself I was imagining the whole thing. That he was just kind. That I was just lonely. But I kept going back. Every weekend. Every match. And every time, I left feeling like I'd brushed up against the edge of something I wasn't ready to name, but couldn't stay away from. Winter came late that year, but it came all at once. The nights grew longer, the streets glazed with frost, and Lucas's house became a kind of refuge, a place where warmth lived, even if we didn't know how to talk about it. The old radiator in his living room clanked loudly when it kicked in, and the windows fogged up just enough to make the world outside feel far away. We took to bundling ourselves in mismatched blankets, our shoulders pressed close under fabric, our legs tangled without apology. Those nights became quieter. The matches still played, but more often we'd drift into long silences, broken only by the scrape of a spoon in a mug or the low thrum of the commentator's voice in the background. It was in those silences that I felt it the most, the thing building between us. The way he'd glance over at me when he thought I wasn't looking. The weight of his hand resting too close to mine. The way our laughter would catch and then fade into something softer, something too delicate to name. One night, I shifted my hand just a little. Our pinkies touched. He didn't move, just kept watching the screen, his face still, but I could see it, the way his breath hitched, the slight tremble in his jaw. We stayed like that for a long time. That was how it happened, mostly, in increments. In the space between seconds, a slow burn so patient it almost hurt. Lucas was never the problem. I was. I'd lie in bed after I got home, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment. I'd imagine reaching for his hand in the dark. Imagine brushing my thumb across the back of it, tracing the constellation of freckles on his wrist. I'd imagine what he might do, flinch away, hold tighter, say my name like it meant something more. But I never did it. Not really, because a fear was always there. This fear I couldn't name, couldn't root out. What if I ruined it? What if the one space I felt safe in vanished the second I spoke the truth? I think he knew. I think he felt the weight of everything I wasn't saying. But he never pushed. He just kept meeting me in that liminal space, close, but never crossing. Then came New Year's. He had a few friends over, mostly neighborhood kids, kids we'd grown up with who now drank warm beer in someone's dad's garage and pretended they were adults. I didn't know why I came. Maybe I was afraid not to. The house was crowded, loud. Music pulsed from an old speaker, and bodies moved around each other like orbiting planets. Lucas found me early in the night, handed me a drink I didn't ask for, and stuck close, too close for just friends. But no one said anything. No one ever did. At one point, we ended up on the back porch, shivering under a threadbare hoodie we both huddled into. Our knees knocked together, and his cheek brushed mine when he turned to whisper something I didn't quite catch. I asked, "What did you say?" He paused. Then, "Nothing." But it didn't feel like nothing. Just before midnight, people started shouting the countdown inside. Lucas looked at me, his breath fogging in the cold. There was a flicker of something in his eyes, a question, maybe, or a dare. But I looked away. And when the fireworks went off, we were still sitting there in silence. After that, something shifted. Not in a dramatic way, just a quiet, aching sort of distance that settled between us like dust. We still watched matches, still sat shoulder to shoulder, but the glances became less frequent, the silences less charged. He'd started pulling away before I even noticed, leaving a little more space between us, laughing a little louder with others. I didn't blame him. I was the one who hesitated. I was the one who kept the door half closed. Still, it hurt. One night in early February, I came over and found him in the kitchen, sleeves rolled up, washing dishes like it was something he actually wanted to be doing. "Your mom finally get tired of your mess." I teased, trying to sound normal. "She's working late," he said. "Figured I'd help out." I nodded, leaning against the counter. "You missed the first half of the match." He shrugged. "Didn't feel like watching tonight." That threw me. Lucas always felt like watching. You okay? He didn't answer right away. Just turned off the faucet, dried his hands, and leaned back against the sink. His eyes met mine, tired, a little distant. I don't know, man. Sometimes I feel like we're stuck. My stomach tightened. Stuck how? He ran a hand through his hair, looked anywhere but at me, like I'm waiting for something that's never gonna happen. I opened my mouth, closed it again. The words were there, but they caught in my throat like thorns. I wanted to say I'm scared star. I wanted to say I feel it too star. I wanted to ask him to wait just a little longer. But all I said was, yeah, me too. He gave me a sad sort of smile. Not bitter, not angry, just tired. And that night, when the match ended and the credits rolled, he didn't lean on me. He didn't brush against me. He just said, see you around, and closed the door gently behind me. That week was quiet. No texts, no invites. I walked past his house like a ghost, trying not to look, trying not to feel the ache blooming in my chest like something broken open. I thought I'd lost him. Thought I'd waited too long, stayed too silent, let fear draw the lines of a story that could have been so much more. But love doesn't vanish just because we don't speak it. It lingers, waits. Sometimes it just needs us to be a little braver. It was 2 weeks before Lucas texted me again. Asterisk. You still coming by Friday? Asterisk. Just 5 words. Casual, unassuming. But they knocked the breath out of me. I stared at my phone for a long time before answering. Asterisk. Yeah. If that's okay. Asterisk. He replied almost immediately. Asterisk. Course it is. Asterisk. The living room was dim when I arrived, lit only by the flicker of the TV and the soft yellow glow of the floor lamp near the couch. The match was already playing, half muted. I stepped inside, heart pounding like I'd run all the way there. Lucas was sprawled out on the couch, a blanket pulled over his lap, hoodie bunched up at the neck. He looked tired, or maybe just resigned. He glanced at me, and something in his expression softened. Hey! I didn't sit right away. I stood there for a second longer, trying to read the space, to see if it was still mine to enter. He patted the couch beside him. You good? I don't know, I said honestly, and the word startled even me. He didn't press, just waited. So I sat there, and for a while, we did what we always did. We let the silence fill in for the things we couldn't say. But this time, it wasn't enough. The weight in my chest was unbearable. I missed this, I said finally, my voice quiet, eyes fixed on the screen. He shifted slightly beside me. Yeah, me too. Another beat of silence. Then, I thought you weren't coming back. I thought you didn't want me to. He let out a low breath, like he'd been holding it for days. I always want you to. That cracked something open. I turned to look at him, really look at him. His eyes met mine, and they didn't waver. There was no teasing in them this time. No careful deflection. Just raw, steady vulnerability. I'm scared, Lucas. He nodded. Me too. I don't know how to do this. Neither do I. We stared at each other for a long time. The TV flickered, forgotten. The radiator hissed in the background. My throat felt thick, like every word I'd swallowed was fighting to surface. I kept thinking if I said anything, it would ruin this. I said, ruin asterisk, you star. He tilted his head, eyes still fixed on mine. And what if not saying anything already did? That hit hard. Too true. I opened my mouth, closed it again. My hands were fists in my lap. Then he reached out, slowly, deliberately, and rested his hand over mine. And that was it. No fireworks. No sweeping declarations. Just the gentle weight of his fingers on mine, like a question asked and answered all at once. I exhaled, shaky and uneven. My hand turned beneath his, our palms aligning, fingers folding together. My heart was a drumbeat in my throat. You feel it too, don't you? I whispered. His voice was almost a breath. Since the first time you laughed at something I said and tried to hide it. I let out a soft, broken laugh. That was years ago. I know. He leaned and then, slowly, like giving me every chance to pull away. But I didn't. I couldn't. His forehead rested against mine, warm and tentative. I closed my eyes, and the world tilted, softened. For a moment, everything else, the fear, the silence, the uncertainty, faded. Just us, just breath and skin and the truth finally breaking free. When his lips brushed mine, it wasn't bold. It wasn't even certain. It was a trembling question wrapped in a whisper, and I answered it. We kissed like we'd both been waiting for permission to breathe. It was slow, almost reverent. Two boys on a too small couch in a too quiet house, discovering the shape of something neither of us had ever named out loud. Not perfect, not polished, but * real star. When we finally pulled apart, his hand still cupped my jaw, thumb tracing the curve of my cheek like he was memoizing it. I felt raw, open in a way I hadn't known was possible. "Okay," he asked, voice low. I nodded. "Yeah, better than okay." He smiled, a small, quiet thing, but it lit something in me. "I don't know what happens now," I said. "We don't have to," he said. "We've got time." Time. It was such a simple thing. But in that moment, it felt like everything. We sat there, curled into each other, the match still playing to no one. Outside, the wind pressed against the windows. Inside, it was warm, the kind of warmth that lives in your chest long after it's over. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't afraid. Not of him. Not of me. Not even of what came next. It didn't change overnight. We didn't start holding hands in public or tell everyone what had shifted between us. We were still us. Still two quiet boys sneaking time under the blue light of the television, still cautious of the words that mattered. But the air between us had softened. Lucas still said, "You good?" every time I came through the door, but now his hand brushed mine when he passed me the remote. Now, when I left at the end of the night, he walked me to the door and lingered, eyes flicking to my mouth like a secret he was dying to keep and dying to tell all at once. I started staying later, sometimes until the radiator stopped clanking and the house went so quiet we could hear the creak of settling wood. We'd curl beneath the same blanket, his head tucked against my shoulder, my fingers tracing laser lines on his arm like I was trying to write something without words. We didn't talk about labels, or futures, or what it meant. Not yet. Maybe we were both still scared of pushing too hard and shattering whatever fragile, beautiful thing we'd finally begun. But in the stillness, I could feel it building, something solid and real growing between us. Something honest. Sometimes I catch him looking at me when I laugh, this soft one in his eyes like he couldn't believe I was there. And sometimes, in the middle of a sentence, he'd forget what he was saying and just smile, and it would hit me all over again. I was *wanted star. Not just tolerated, not just included. *wanted star. One night, about a month later, I stayed over. No pretense. No excuse about it being too late to walk home. He just looked at me after the match ended and said, "Stay," like it was the easiest thing in the world. We lay side by side on the mattress on his floor, surrounded by rumpled blankets and the quiet hum of the city outside his window. Neither of us moved much. It wasn't about that. His hand found mine beneath the covers. Fingers laced without asking. "Do you ever wonder," he murmured into the dark, "how long we've been circling this?" I turned to face him. All the time. He let out a breath that sounded a lot like relief. I thought I imagined it for so long. "You didn't." "I know," he said, squeezing my hand. "Now I know." And I felt it then, not the rush of some grand love story, but the quiet, steady rhythm of something real. Something *our star. It wasn't perfect. There were still moments I pulled back, unsure of how to navigate this new version of us. Still moments when silence crept in, not as comfort but as fear. But now, when that happened, Lucas reached for me anyway. And slowly, I started reaching back. Some mornings, I'd wake up before him, the pale light creeping through the curtains, and just watch him breathe. His face soft in sleep, his mouth slightly open, one arm slung over his eyes. And I'd think about that first night, the way his shoulder brushed mine and sent a spark through my chest. I'd think about how close I came to letting it pass me by. But I didn't. We didn't. That was the thing about slow burns. They didn't blaze. They simmered, quiet and steady, beneath the surface. But when they caught, they warmed you all the way through. One afternoon in early spring, we sat on the curb outside his house, drinking iced coffee and watching the world pass by like it wasn't moving too fast for once. The sky was a bright, forgiving kind of blue, and the scent of cut grass lingered in the breeze. Lucas nudged my knee with his. You ever gonna tell your parents? I thought about it. About how long I'd been hiding that part of myself, folding it up tight and tucking it into the quiet corners of my life. About how different things might be once I said it out loud. Eventually, I said, "Not yet." He nodded like he understood. "I'll wait." And he meant it. We sat there, side by side, knees touching, and didn't say much after that. We didn't need to. The silence between us had changed. It no longer held all the things we were afraid to say. Now, it just held ****. And for once, that was more than enough.